To another episode of Ovation English Through Acting. Today is a very, very, very special day because you've heard me so much and I'm sure you're all sick of my voice. Well, guess what? Now we have another voice. So I want to give a little background right here. So I'm about to introduce one of my first students that I've had in this past year. Somebody who I really just connected with right away. Right away, mainly because we've had very similar stories, and very just I think we're just very similar in probably every which way possible, especially emotionally, and which is what we're really talking about. Is the emotional part of learning a language and what we have to go through. And this woman has really done it. When I say really done it, she has done it. And that's pretty much all I want to say because I want to let her speak. So right now, I'm so happy to welcome our very first guest on the show, hold on. Straight from France! Oh my god! Oui, party! Well, no, she's not from Paris, but we'll let her know. But please welcome Alex! Alex, how are you, dear?
I'm fine, and I guess you're fine too.
I'm always fine. You know that, dear. You know I'm always fine. So, Alex, look. So we've known each other almost a year right now, and it's been an amazing journey that you and I have had together. So I really wanna let the audience know who you are. So just tell us your full name and where you're originally from.
Okay, yeah, so I'm Alexandra. I go by Alex. I prefer it. I'm a social epidemiologist, a researcher, and I'm from Réunion Island. So it's a French island in the Indian Ocean. Basically, I said that I was a researcher. I study how social and environmental factors they shape children's health. Also, I studied with adults now, but research I'm passionate about languages, traveling, fitness, dance, pole dance, hills dance, all that, and also connecting with people across countries.
And guys, if you can hear her speak, just to let you know, English is not her first language. It's probably not even her third language or fourth language. So, Alex, when did you start learning languages? What was the inspiration behind learning a language, just getting out there?
Really, I started from my childhood, basically, when I was watching Disney Channel, because I'm a Disney girl, right? Um, I was just passionate about how it sounded, and watching every episode of all my favorite shows made me want to actually one day also be able to speak and connect with those people that I appreciate the culture, right? Um, so yeah.
Were you able to learn the language through those Disney movies? What was your method? How did you actually learn your first second language, let me say?
School we started, but I guess my journey really started when I moved to Paris for my master degree. So in public health and epidemiology, and I had to present more in English. And I actually had to connect with people, do project with people, and actually speak, and not just learn in books and in school. And then eventually, I was afraid of speaking and everything, and it challenged my confidence because I hated making mistakes. And now I see that every mistake is part of learning, and I see every mistake as a way to progress. And that's the secret, I would say. Just jump into it and try to, no matter what. I know at first, it's complicated because you may have the words to, I mean, you may know what you're feeling, but you may not have the words to say it. But eventually that comes with practice. I would say, there is the saying, practice makes perfect. I would say practice makes progress, and really that's it.
And how was it? Because obviously, you had to, moving to the big city in Paris and what you're studying. What was it like emotionally? Because obviously, like I said in my story, where learning Spanish, I had to not only learn Spanish but learn who I was in that language. How was that for you? Kind of trying to transfer your personality from French into English.
Say learning a language does not change who you are, but makes you discover new faces of yourself, right? And of course, it has completely changed my life too, like learning languages, because I also started Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, Italian, and professionally, it also changed my life because now, for example, for Spanish, it brought me closer to my colleagues and to the Latino communities I now worked with, because now I live in Los Angeles, even though I studied in Paris for my master and PhD. It also transformed my old friendships, because when I went to Barcelona first during my PhD for an exchange, right? Now I made friends there, and now I'm completely able to speak Spanish with them, and I felt like I was discovering them all over again. So that's for that. And also, yeah, it brought me closer to some aspects of me that I never thought I could find or existed. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So, guys, I mean, look, I know it's hard learning one language, but Alex, can we go over how many languages do you speak? Can we count these? What's the language that you speak now?
So my very first language is French, right? And then I grew up on Reunion Island, where we also speak Creole. So Reunionese Creole, so that would be two. Then English, Spanish, I started in 2024. Then Portuguese a year after that, so 2025. Same for Italian, so that's gonna be six. And recently I started Russian, so total I would say seven, but I am not able yet to make a conversation in Russian, but yeah.
Now, did you find some type of trick after learning, because obviously you knew French from a child and then Creole and then learning English. Did you find some type of formula that helped you learning other languages?
Yeah, I would say learning English was completely different, right? Because I started right when I was a child, and it was through school, etc. Even though, as I mentioned before, I polished that when I moved to Paris and I had to do all these projects, and I had to really put myself out there and speaking to people. But then when I started learning Spanish from scratch, I knew nothing. I started just really to have classes every day, so that's something, because we need to speak a language to be able to speak it, right? It makes sense, but we need to practice concretely. Also, I had all this book that brought me the vocabulary I needed. I was watching my series I'm still watching my series in the different languages I'm learning. I'm listening to music, podcasts, also all the time, every time if I can, I speak to myself in those languages, because I'm describing my day, right, or what happened to me, and I come across a word I don't know, so I'm gonna look it up, and then I get a new word, right? So that's how I do it. I just deeply, deeply, deeply surround myself with that language.
And it's a process, right? I mean, it's just a process. Every day you practice a little bit and you get better, right? And guys, that's all it is. That's all it is. Don't think it's impossible. All it is just 10 minutes a day if you take that, and you're gonna get better. So now, Alex, you've done something that most of my students dream of. That's their goal, and you've achieved it. You went from living in France, and now you live in L.A. I mean, you live in this, one of the largest cities in the U.S. What was that like, leaving France and then going to LA, where you knew, okay, there's a little bit of French here and there, but this was a place where you had to speak English. What was that like, having that transition?
Well, I would say, as I mentioned, I'm from Reunion Island and I first moved to Paris. So that was a big first transition, even though it was a French-speaking country, right? And then opportunities kept opening, and as you mentioned, I moved to LA, so a little bit of context for that. A conference in Vichy, France completely changed my life because I reshared a presentation I generally loved, and the speaker, who is now my boss, contacted me. And one Zoom meeting later, I had my postdoc, so after my PhD, lined up before I even defending my PhD. And so I didn't think twice, you know. I always loved this country and I wanted to see how it felt like to live here. So I obviously said yes, and I love being challenged in new environments. So I said, let's do it. And then when I came here, of course, at first, again, you know, it's completely different when you live in another country for which English is not the main language, and then you move to like America, the United States, where everyone speaks really fast, and you know, with some different day-to-day English, it's not the same that we do speak, right? So that felt, I had to adjust first. I made mistakes, I learned, I'm still learning. Again, I was frustrated sometimes because I could not express what I wanted to, but you know, eventually that feeling left. Now I still make mistakes, I still have to improve, but yeah, I feel connected to this place now, and that's what.
So you said something very important. You said, you know, obviously it's a little frustrating, you know, you can't always express everything that you want to, but that feeling does go away.
It does.
It does go away. And, you know, and in my case, the same thing, just because I just kept speaking. You know, the more you speak, the better you get, just like learning an instrument. And, you know, obviously we know that living in that foreign country also helps because you're hearing it every day. You're kind of forced to speak. You know, like me living in Latin America, I have no choice. I have to speak Spanish. And like you living in LA, it's either English or Spanish. But that's, you know, and it forces you, you know, and that's the thing that really pushes you. So, guys, you know, as I said, you know, hopefully a lot of my students are going to listen to this and listen to you, Alex, because they all have that same dream. They all have that same goal, you know, to get out of their country and get more opportunities either in North America or somewhere in Europe, places like this. And what is the one advice you can tell people when it comes to actually moving? Like, not just visit, because there's a difference. We know there's a difference between visiting and actually moving and adapting. What is something you could tell our listeners, you know, what to expect?
I would say don't wait until you feel fearless. Don't wait until you feel ready, because there's no such thing as feeling ready. That's a myth, right? Every beautiful chapter of my life started while I was scared, you know, moving away from home, learning new languages, applying for opportunities, traveling alone, because I do that a lot too. So growth really rarely feels comfortable, but if you keep choosing curiosity over fear, one day you look back and you realize that all those small leaps completely change your life, and you also realize that the people, the places, even the heartbreaks that once felt like detours, they often, you know, became the very things that shaped the person you're proud to be today.
And how long have you been in LA right now?
It's gonna be May 2024, so that's gonna be 2 years and some months, yeah.
And do you ever, I mean, do you ever think about going back to France? Do you ever have that desire? Do you miss speaking French every day? Do you have any of those thoughts, homesickness or what? Or are you just kind of, have you changed, is your biology changed to the country you're living in?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I do miss my island, I do miss my friends, my family. I do miss bread and nice pastries, not overload with sugar. But, you know, eventually when I have those moments when I feel nostalgic, I think about all these sacrifices that I made and all these difficult times I went through to be where I am right now. And then, that feeling just goes away, and I know that I have more to experience and more to discover. So, yeah, for now,
And
I
the
don't think I'm gonna leave that place.
And the one thing that you and I have really talked about is, being in other countries. It does get lonely, and as an adult, obviously, if you're like me living in South America, if I want to date somebody, I'm gonna date a Latina, and I'm gonna need to speak Spanish, and all that. What is the dating world like in English for you? Is it different than in a French world?
Say, sorry for laughing. I would say it's pretty much the same. Um, Pretty much the same, but I guess it all traces back to me, where I guess I have different standards, or I live in another, I don't live in the right century or something. But
We all have that.
yeah, I don't feel like that's a word for me. I I feel good how I am right now, and the dating word is not a word for me.
Right. But how do you deal with, obviously being away from your family, being away from, I mean, obviously you've obviously made new friends along the way, obviously. But how do you deal with that loneliness? Because I want to make sure that the other people that make that same decision as you, are prepared, and you've done it. And I think you have really great information. So how can you explain to people, not just, dealing with but not giving up? Because I know it's hard when you move to another country, adapting, and the people adapting to you. How can you explain to them, and where that they know that not to give up? Everything is always going to be brighter if you keep walking.
Yeah, so first I want to differentiate between um, feeling lonely and being alone, right? It's not the same thing. And I would say that I've not entirely felt lonely, but I'm clearly alone. And some of my biggest moments of growth happened when I was by myself, but supported, of course, by my parents and family on other countries, right? In other countries. But of course, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it feels lonely, right? I do feel lonely, but not often. But when I do feel like that, again, I remember myself, why in the first place I moved here by myself, and what my goals are. And I've seen in the past that all the sacrifices I did paid eventually. So I remember myself all these victories, and then I say, why would the other goals that I have now, I mean, how is that going to be different? So I just have to keep pushing, to keep going. And of course, once in a while, when I really feel down, we're just one phone call away from feeling better, because we have friends in our home country, so they're always going to be there.
So you always have that lifeline, yeah. Because it's hard, it's, me living in South America, the first year was awful. It was absolutely awful. You're learning a whole new culture, a whole new land, and you're very insecure. You don't know, hey, how am I going to work? How am I going to do, I was this person in America. How am I going to be this person in Latin America? It's very hard. And most of my students, the main reason they want to actually move is for their career. They want to advance their career. And once again, you've done it. You've done it. So I want to go into this, and I want people to really hear your career in English. Like, what do you explain it? So just tell everybody once again, what is it? So you're a health researcher, correct?
Hmm. So what I do,
And what is it? Hmm?
go ahead.
What is it that what is your basic functions? Like, what is your main job in this?
Yeah, so it's looking at the data that we have on children, families, and especially I'm interested in looking at social and environment, food environment, also the physical environment, built environment, and how it relates to different what we call health outcomes. So it can be social health, social emotional health. It can be obesity, diabetes, all of that. So yeah, and I relate these factors, these social and environmental factors, to health in children.
And what was it like? Was it very? I mean, and obviously you were studying this in France, correct? Okay, so what was that transition? Because that's the thing that most of my students are worried about, is being able to be as sincere as they are in their career in their native language and having that same in that second language. How did you manage that? Is that a difficult task? You know, taking all that knowledge that you learned in French and basically translating it to English and having, you know, that be your job every single day. What is that like?
Well, to be honest, when you are a researcher internationally, you do start speaking English and writing in English and presenting in English. So the transition was not that hard because I was already doing it in France. All the papers I've been writing and publishing, even from day one, it was in English. So that was not quite hard for me, that transition. I mean.
And did you have to obviously when you have information and you have your research, do you ever have to kind of display your research in public, in a
Yeah,
public atmosphere?
mm-hmm.
And what is that like? Because obviously that's, I mean, for normal people who don't even know a second language, speaking in public is a nightmare for a lot of people. But obviously in a second language, it's a whole nother ball game. It's a whole nother ball game. What is that like, speaking in public, having to do, you know, having to share your research to a public audience who's basically mostly American, and really having to, you know, show that confidence, like, hey, I know what I'm doing, I got the right research, I'm very competent in this, and this is what it is. How do you deal with that? How did you deal with it?
Yeah, so I mean, there are many things here. So first, even in my native language, when I have to present something, I feel stressed, right? Because I want the public to understand, I want to be clear in what I say. So that's that. That's always going to be here because we want to produce something that is meaningful to others, right? And then, yeah, going to presenting but in English, that's an extra layer of difficulty that you add to that. But eventually, again, with practice, you know, at first, the very first talk I gave, the very first speech I gave, I felt extra stressed. Then it went well, right? I had a talk, a 10-minute talk, and then I gave it, and then people asked me questions afterwards, and it was like genuinely nice questions, and they were just generally interested in what I was saying. So the environment in which I speak usually during conferences, people, they're here to just learn from you because you are supposed to know more on your topic than the other in the audience. So they're just here to listen, and they're not here to judge, you know, and they appreciate that you are speaking in another language so that they can understand, right? So that's that. And when you realize that, you say, okay, I did my best. It was not my first language. Let's keep moving. And the more you practice again, this feeling goes away, but you still feel a little bit stressed because, again, you want your message to be conveyed in how you said it and what you said.
Did you, I mean, obviously, did you ever have times where people, while we were talking to people and they said, you know, they gave you the look like, excuse me, I didn't understand. Have you ever gotten those?
Got those, but not in my professional sphere. It was more in my day-to-day life, right, where I had not people saying nicely I didn't understand, but just looking down on me and judging me for that.
Did you now this is great. So because obviously living in the United States, growing up in New York especially, being surrounded by immigrants from all over the world, and hearing them speak broken English, the view of when you hear somebody speak broken English, you don't think about them living from another country. You just think, oh, they're probably not that smart,
Yes.
you know, and did you ever feel that, have that kind of insecurity where you felt like when you were speaking, like people just didn't think, maybe they didn't think that you were as smart as maybe you should be?
Yeah, yeah. As I mentioned, it's all these experiences challenge my confidence, and I hated making mistakes for that exact reason. And sometimes, yeah, I feel sad and even like invisible. I'm like, do they know how smart I am in French? But yeah, eventually, as I'm learning now more and more languages, but I knew that from the very beginning. I know that how meaningful it is when someone makes the effort to meet you in your own language. And I try not to think about all these people who probably do not have, sorry, the ability to reflect on that because they just know one language, right? So I'm like, I'm just gonna let them where they are, and I'm not gonna drain my energy for that. But it's a process. First, I felt completely sad about it, and then yeah, the more you grow, the more you realize, well, I know more languages than they know just one. So because usually other people, bilingual, polyglots, they don't judge you. They know.
They know, right? And that's the thing. It's as I said in America. Oh, well, I shouldn't even say in America. I'm sure most countries, most people just the majority of the people speak their native language, and they don't know. That's the whole reason for this show, is for people to understand that learning a language as a hobby, it's one thing. But to learn a language for necessity, for survival, for advancement in your career and your life, it's it's a very emotional process. It's a very hard and emotional process. But like you kept saying, it's something that you just have to. It's like practice. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, right? And that's all I keep telling people. I keep telling people the same thing. Same thing with with the guitar. You start one day, you're terrible, but you practice a little bit every day. Your muscles in your fingers get stronger. Same thing here. I tell everybody, these muscles are what makes all the sounds. This is how you're going to become when you develop these muscles. And it's all about development. And the only way you're ever going to develop those muscles is by always training, never giving up, not stopping. And that's the main thing, and that's what we really want to try to convey here is, people have, you had that dream to go to the United States, to make a better life for yourself, and a lot of people have dreams, but they just don't think it's possible. A lot of people just don't feel like, they just think like dreams are for children. Those are things we had when we were kids. But no, and as I say, the great thing about imagination is that's what helps you achieve dreams. And if you kept that imagination as a child, those are the things that train you to achieve your dreams. So you are somebody, I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at somebody who's actually achieved their dream. I mean, you had an idea, you had a vision, you had a feeling, and you didn't just say, "Hey, okay, I'm just going to do it." You actually prepared, you did your research, you did your due diligence, and you put yourself out there. And I think that's probably the most important thing, is that you put yourself out there. Not knowing if anybody's going to like you or anybody's going to understand, but you put yourself out there not knowing, and that's what really got you the opportunity, right? So it's really trying to fight that fear of insecurity and just saying, "Hey, let's just try." If you're going to go for the dream, you got to go for it, right? You got to do everything. full in, all in. There's no other way to do it. So, um, in this, what does it feel like to? Because I've done it. I've done it myself. Becoming a professional musician was the biggest dream I've ever had in my life, and I accomplished that. I know what that feels like. But for you, what does it feel like knowing? I mean, you're looking around, or you look out your window, you're in Los Angeles. You're not in France. You have all these amazing friends that are American, and you work for this I mean, you're doing important work. You're doing important work. Not only for that, but you're doing research on Americans, not even on French, but you're doing research on American health. I mean, what is that like knowing you achieved your dream?
I would say it is true. Sometimes I stop and I reflect on my journey and I realize, yeah, I'm here. Also when I travel, thanks to my job, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I know not a lot of people can do that. And I feel proud, that's true. But unfortunately, I guess this is something every human being does. We think about the next step. And then it ruins somehow all that you've achieved, right? Because you take that for granted somehow and you just focus on doing more. And so it blurs the picture somehow, but yeah, sure, I am proud of where I am, but I also know that I want to keep moving forward to achieve my other goals now.
And do you feel like have you become more American? Do you feel like you lost some of that French nationality and become more American, or do you still like you're just a French woman living in America?
I'm definitely just a French woman living in America. I'm never gonna become an American. I am sorry, I cannot with the small talk. I have to be like, Frank's right to the point.
Well, okay. So now this is the one. Now, good. So because I want people to understand and be prepared, because I mean, I can tell them, but I'm an American, so I'm used to a lot
You're
of things.
biased.
What are the things that really kind of stood out to you in America? Is either the culture, the food, whatever, people, whatever. What is it? What are the things that really you just looked and were like, whoa, this is gonna take
What?
some time to get used to?
Many things, but I'm gonna start with one that was pretty obvious to me because I am a health researcher. I love also like taking care of myself and everything. So I would say the food environment. And I live in LA. I know it's pretty different depending on where you live, but even in health conscious LA, unhealthy food is everywhere. And as a public health researcher, again, it's impossible not to notice. And that, yeah, really, I mean, I knew it because, of all the readings I did for my studies and everything before coming. But still, it surprised me to actually have to deal with that on a daily basis because I have to eat, right? So, and honestly, also how the environment is not that walkable friendly and how little people walk. Again, maybe this is just a pattern I'm seeing in LA and it's not the case for other places in the US. But that's that. Because as a European and more so an island girl, I need my daily dose of walk and, to think and recharge. So that's that. Also, I would say, again, I was speaking about small talks. That's something Americans do a lot. I think. That's my opinion. And I love deep connections, right? So to me, it felt weird and like, how come you just know me? I mean, you met me 2 minutes ago. I am not amazing. You know nothing about me. You know what I mean? And they're always extra about the adjective they use to define you.
You're incredible. We love you. Amazing.
And yeah, and that's I cannot. I'm like, please, that's that. And then two, another small funny stuff is like, no, two actually. I was right from the beginning. The taxes. Please include that in the final price. You're doing your shopping and then you go to check out and then the bill is more than what you thought because the taxes are not included from the very first. So you know you
We know how to get you. We know how to get you.
Also the tip culture. We don't know, I mean, of course you can tip in Europe, right? But this is not something that you have to do. And here it's different, right? Because of how the system works. So I knew it, but it still surprised me because when you have to apply that, it feels weird. Because if you don't do it, like you seem rude, but it's just that you're not used to it. And at the beginning, I was having a hard time with that, but yeah, I would say that's that.
Yeah, well, the diet is definitely super. I mean, if anybody's moving to another country, especially if you're going to move to Latin America, you have to know. I mean, and that's important. And I want everybody to be aware that if you move to another country, you should bring your diet with you. Don't just adapt to what's given to you because, especially in the United States, I could tell you, Alex knows, as a professional. We're not the healthiest of eaters, so these are things. And speaking of that, is it important to bring all of you into another country, or should you leave some of you behind? Because it's like because for me, when I moved to Ecuador, it's I really had to throw away a lot of who I was because it was New York, and it didn't fit into the Ecuadorian culture or the Ecuadorian field. So, are there things that you've left behind in France as far as who you are, or are you all in this?
To me, being yourself is so important. I came with everything. Of course, I'm hiding some of who I am sometimes in some context, but everything is here, and I use it wisely. Let's say each part of me, depending on the context and depending on who is in front of me. It's also something I've learned moving all over the place and having to adapt to different environments. Is just to analyze people, and then reciprocate. Give them what they give you, yeah, I think that's it. But everything is here, basically. Yeah, I could not see myself, basically being a chameleon. That's no. I mean, there are still part of me. That's who I am. I cannot change for a culture. I can adapt and again filter, but no, not abandon.
Okay, and what has, if anything, what has changed the most about you since living in a foreign country?
Learning another language and also living in another country, it just lets you connect with people on another level, definitely. And as I mentioned before, discover different parts of yourself. Tricky question. Truly, I do not have a perfect answer for that.
Not everything does need a perfect answer.
That's
not
true,
everything
but I don't
does.
have like an answer. Let's say an answer for that question.
Well, a lot of this, and we have to be real. We have to be true to anybody who's in our situation, coming from our native land and moving to a foreign country. That there's going to be a lot of a lot of things that you're not going to expect. There's going to be a lot of things that you're going to have to deal with that are not easy and that don't have the simple answers, right? But what is the main thing that we keep saying? Just keep walking forward. Keep walking forward. So now, walking forward, do you see yourself, because, you're a master of languages, right? How many languages? We've already said she knows 6 languages.
7.
Is there 7? Oh, sorry, 7.
Okay, so 6.
Yeah, one is on the way. We can't really say that, okay? Russian isn't there yet. Dos svidaniya, you know what I'm saying? So, is there another journey ahead of you? Do you think that there's another country that you would like to go and kind of just do the same thing and explore and discover and adapt and live? Or are you thinking of staying in LA or going back to France? What is your future? What does the future hold for Alex now?
It's difficult to respond to that question because we never know. One decision can derail everything, right? But to me, I've always no. When I first went for that exchange in Barcelona, I fell in love with the city. And I promised myself that first I would learn Spanish. This is, I checked that box. And that I would live there eventually. So I would say, yeah, going to Spain and living there for a while or longer, that's for me the natural next step. But also I can see myself staying in LA because I do love LA and how it offers me the possibility to travel to Latin America because I love the culture, right? So that's that. And of course, I love France and I love Reunion Island, and maybe in the long term I can go back there. But again, I do think I have some exploring to do, be it staying here and traveling or being in Spain, living in Spain and explore there, right? So I think the possibilities are endless. It's just, I have to yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is you're open to a new adventure if it comes.
Yeah, because
And I think that's probably one of the greatest things. Is just as long as you're open, because you were open to just going to the States. You didn't know if it was going to happen, and boom, there she is. So on a closing note, okay, because as I said, the reason, guys, the reason why Alex is our first guest here is because, for one, obviously I love her and she's been a great guest, and we've really, really connected in a great way. But the fact that she's done it, okay, she's done the thing that you guys are really wanting to do. And not only has she done it, but she's done it multiple times over, learning different languages and really getting, becoming fluent in those languages, and taking those chances that everybody's afraid of. She took them. Not only did she took them by herself. Okay? Nobody was holding her hand. She did it alone. Alone, okay? And it looks scary when you're doing it alone. But I'm going to I just want you to kind of give an audience the closing of what the best advice you can give anybody who wants to follow you, because you are the prime example of why people learn a language. We learn a language so we can get better opportunity. And not only did you do that, but you excelled at it. So please, give our audience some, what magic potion, if there is, or any type of advice, any closing statements you want to give that really help them, you think?
I think I'm going to repeat myself, but really, if you're passionate about something, if you have a dream, if you're driven by something you really want to do not let anyone tell you that you cannot. I had teachers telling me I could not succeed in science when I was in high school. I didn't listen to them because I knew that's what I wanted to do, and who were there, to tell me that I could not. So I just keep pushing and really don't wait until you feel ready or fearless. Just dive in, and if anything, if you don't get the output you want, you're gonna learn a lesson, or you're gonna become wiser, and you're gonna use that knowledge that you acquired during the process to move towards a goal that is more suitable for your life, right? But please, growth rarely feels comfortable. Dive into it. Be passionate. Be loving. That's what I have to say.
And basically, remember, guys, fear is only in your head. It's only a figment of your imagination. And
Anxiety.
Yeah, and you're looking at the proof. You're looking, I mean, this is why I'm doing this, so that I'm showing you people who have done it. Alex has done it. She's proof. Look at it, and she's thriving. So, guys, this is possible. Your dreams are possible. Just every day, you work at it. You work at it. You know, that's all it takes, being persistent, being passionate. And that's what life is. Once you're persistent and passionate, everything else comes. Everything else comes. Well, Alex, I'm so happy to finally have you on the show. You are as I said, this is a historical moment because you are guest number one. Always will be guest number one. And since you are so knowledgeable in languages in this, we're definitely going to have you back on more. And so you can, because I think Alex has a really great perspective on life and about, learning languages, and she's got six, but we'll say seven, okay, just to say it, okay, six. But she, and she really knows this, and I think she can offer a lot of advice, or, just a lot of her experience to our following guests. But once again, Alex, thank you so much for coming. You're amazing. You are an inspiration, not only to me, but to everybody who's really in this same position, because you've done it. You have done it. So we want to make sure we give her. Yeah, look at her. So, once again, Alex, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on Ovation English Through Acting, and we will see you again. Goodbye, everybody. I said goodbye. You gotta leave.
Okay.
No. No. You gotta. No. You guys have to leave. Fine, forget it. I'm gonna leave.